We have some preliminary reports from this weekend about Trump's Secretary of State pick, and he's on the brink of making this pick. Now, Trump likes to throw curveballs at the media, so there's a chance that they floated this to do a head fake so that the media reports on it, and then he turns around and says, no, that's not who I picked, and see, the media are all liars because they reported that's who I was going to pick. So this could be a Trump fucking jujitsu move, because that sounds like something and feels like something he might do, of like, okay, have my administration leak that we have the pick for Secretary of State and it's this person, and then just go, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no reason you should have believed that. So, we'll hold and wait and see, but I'm willing to say it's an 82% chance. I made that number up, but an 82% chance that this is the pick. So if indeed it is, he's going with Rex Tillerson. Rex Tillerson is the president and CEO of Exxon frickin' Mobil. I keep running through the scenario in my head. Like, what if a year ago I had told people, Donald Trump is going to become president of the United States and he's going to pick the CEO of ExxonMobil to be his Secretary of State? People would have laughed me out of the room. There was an article headline yesterday in The Independent. Trump says he's too smart for daily intelligence briefings. If I had told you a year ago, Trump is going to become president and that's going to be a real headline, you would have laughed until your sides hurt, until you couldn't breathe. But it appears like reality. So what do you need to know about Rex Tillerson? Well, he's worth over $200 million. He's a common man. Fights for the common man, like nobody's business. He's been at Exxon for 41 years. 41 years. Does he have any diplomatic and government experience? No. None. Now, he does have countless business experience and shady deals with questionable governments. So, for example, it is actually true that Rex Tillerson is a butt buddy of Vladimir Putin. He got an award from Vladimir Putin in 2013 for like a friendship award or something. Why? Because they had oil contracts with each other. Now, by the way, Exxon lost $1 billion when the United States imposed sanctions on Russia over what they did in Crimea when they annexed Crimea. So the Obama administration was like, well, we got to do something. We can't just let this stand. He just annexed fucking Crimea. So they did sanctions. Rex Tillerson, ExxonMobil, lost $1 billion. So I wonder if those sanctions are going to stand, if indeed he is the final pick for Secretary of State and Donald Trump goes in that direction. They would get rid of those sanctions so quick it'll make your head spin. Tremendous. And that would be a poor incentive for Putin, because then it's a green light of, you can kind of do whatever you want in the post-Soviet states and we'll shut up. Ooh, that's not good. Now, but it's not just Russia. It's also Yemen. He did deals with Yemen. Yemen right now is in civil war. It's Al-Qaeda and Sunni fundamentalists versus the Shia Houthis. And it's kind of like a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Of course, Saudi Arabia is bombing civilians out the wazoo. I mean, bombing hospitals and schools and open-air markets and mosques, and they're using U.S. weapons, and we keep arming them over and over. So again, do you expect the situation to change in Yemen? No, if anything, it'll escalate, because we're on the side of the Sunnis, because the Sunnis are backed by Saudi Arabia, our top ally. So they'll go balls to the wall. Under a Trump administration with a Rex Tillerson Secretary of State, expect the war in Syria to escalate, expect us to give more weapons to the terrorist state of Saudi Arabia, and expect us to get further entrenched in there. All right, more, not just Yemen, also Qatar. ExxonMobil has super close ties with the Qatari state oil company. That's not good. Again, like all these close ties with like horrific dictatorial regimes, and all you're going to see is those alliances get stronger under Trump administration. Like one of the appeals of him in the primary was that like he was kind of questioning all the orthodoxies. Like, hey, maybe we don't reflexively side with Israel and we treat Israel and Palestine equal. These were like things he had hinted towards in the primary, but then eventually, he came right around to the orthodoxy of, no, Israel, maybe if they expand settlements, it's fine. It's understandable, totally fine. And the same thing with Saudi Arabia. He registered new businesses in Saudi during the primary. So all the talk of like, oh yeah, we're going to crack down on radical Islam. My ass, you are. That would be, issue number 1, Saudi Arabia, if you really want to crack down on radical Islam, if you really want to crack down on Salafism. And again, this guy would be a horrific pick. You want to talk about conflict of interest? We're going to have a fucking oil state. I mean, a real corporatocracy, an oligarchy, government of, by, and for the rich and of, by, and for Exxon frickin' Mobil. You don't think he's going to make policy that affects ExxonMobil in a positive way? And you don't think they're really going to take climate change seriously? I'm sure that fucking ExxonMobil CEO is going to be Secretary of State. I'm really hopeful for that Paris Agreement. Now, to be fair to Rex, he had come out and said, no, I support the Paris Agreement and I think climate change is real. But he might just be savvy and not an idiot like a lot of other Republican clowns who admit, like, we have these horrific beliefs. He might be smoother about it and say, no, I believe in it, but then behind the scenes keep going with business as usual, which is what I fear. And then the scariest thing to me is what Donald Trump has said about what he wants to do around the world repeatedly. Now, as you watch this, keep in mind, ExxonMobil CEO for Secretary of State.
You would keep troops in Iraq after this year?
I would take the oil.
I don't understand how you would take does that mean keeping troops there or staying involved in Iraq?
You heard me, I would take the oil.
You will guarantee that we will have a presence, that we will spend money, send troops, do whatever it takes in order to secure access to oil.
Money. We will make a fortune. We will make money. They have $15 trillion worth of oil in Iraq. 15 trillion. We will make a lot of money. We will not lose that oil.
So your Middle East policy is basically guided by our interest in oil.
My Middle East, I always heard that. I always heard that when we went into Iraq, we went in for the oil. I said, that sounds smart. Why don't we just take over the oil? We should take it over.
We should come in.
Well, I don't want to give it to Iran.
Should we be running Iraq right now?
We should be running the oil. You know, when they announced the war, and everybody smiles, except the smart people. The smart people don't smile. You see, when they announced the war with Iraq, a few very smart people said, that war is really smart because we're going to take over the oil. Unfortunately, Bush didn't have that in mind. You know, in the old days, you'd have a war, and you'd win the war. And to the victor belong the spoils. You know that. Look at Iraq. Look at the mess we have after spending $2 trillion, thousands of lives, wounded warriors all over the place who I love. Okay, all over. We have nothing. And I said, keep the oil. And we should have kept the oil, believe me. When I heard that we were first going into Iraq, some very smart people told me, well, we're actually going for the oil. And I said, all right, I get that. I get that. There's nothing else. I get it. We didn't take the oil. 1.5 trillion, we should take it and pay ourselves back. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Okay, just real quick, I have to get the fact out there. It's actually not even true that we didn't take the oil. There was oil exports shot up huge right when we got control in Iraq. So I'm sure there was some sort of deal where a certain percentage goes to the corrupt Iraqi government. But yeah, Don, of course that kind of shady, fucked up imperialist shit happened. But he's more forthright about it, and I would imagine he wants to go further. He's just saying take it. So don't give the corrupt officials their cut and, quell the population. He's saying just take the oil, take the oil, take the oil. ExxonMobil CEO, Secretary of State. I wonder why he picked him. He picked him because he wants to take the oil. He wants to follow through on it. And understand, this is a guy who, it's so funny that he always says, law and order. We're the law and order campaign. Law and order. He said that so many times during the election. What he's advocating for is violating ultimate law and order. He's advocating going into a sovereign country, jacking their natural resources. That would make you the terrorist state. You can't do that. I'm going to go into the sovereign nation and just take their natural resources. You can't do that. That's a violation of international law. It's a violation of the Geneva Conventions, the Nuremberg Tribunal. I mean, you should be prosecuted if you do that in the International Criminal Court. I mean, that's insanity. If any other nation did that, Iran's like, we're just going to go into Saudi and jack their shit. We're like, oh, rogue state, terrorist state, this is insane, offensive, cretinous monsters, barbarians, savages. Trump says it, he said it repeatedly on national TV, live. I would take the oil. I'd go in there and take the oil. To the victor go the spoils. You take the oil. You take the oil. He's advocating war crimes on national TV. And now he's picking a Secretary of State who would be the best suited to do just that. This is scary times, man. I mean, it's like all the signs are there of like this just dropping the veil of civilization and forgetting all the flowery rhetoric and all the bullshit arguments you need to make to like pacify the population. And it's just balls to the wall imperialism. Like, we're going to take the oil, and I picked the ExxonMobil CEO for Secretary of State because we're going to go take the oil, and that's what we're going to do. It's going to be tremendous, believe me. How the fuck do you think history is going to judge a country that where the leader says, I'm going to steal natural resources from a sovereign nation, and they pick somebody to do exactly that for the Secretary of State, and then they're likely going to just do it? How would history view them? I mean, that's right up there with the most monstrous regimes in history, where they even dropped the fake, civilizing mission of like, well, we're doing this because we care about freedom and democracy. With Bush, that's what you got. Oh, it's about freedom for the Iraqi people. That's what it is. It's about liberty. It's about bringing democracy. They're like, no, fuck that. Just steal their shit. This is sad and scary, scary times.